Okay, I'll just look it up. I can Google it. Yeah.
Hi, good evening, everybody. We're gonna pretty much start on time tonight, so that we respect everybody's time. But my name is Gwen Jones. I use the pronouns her, hers. So if people choose to share their pronouns tonight, great. I wanted to say thank you so much for coming. We did the Local Government Academy in 2019 and 2020, and then the pandemic hit. And we took a hiatus for a while. So again, I'm Gwen Jones. I'm president of the City Council, and City Council has always kind of spearheaded this project. When we did it in 2019 and 2020, another co-councilor, Heather Hart, and I collaborated on it, and it was a really popular program. So I'm so glad we're re-upping it, and thank you for applying and going through the application and responding and coming tonight. So excellent. We have 6 weeks ahead of us. This is the first evening, and although I love local government and I majored in poli-sci, this might be the least exciting evening, so I just want to say it's an uphill trajectory after that. It's going to get way more exciting, but we're going to start off laying a foundation tonight. That's what we're doing, and it's a good place to start. This is really an educational vehicle. What we found is folks know a little bit here and there about local government, but it's really designed to be an educational vehicle for you to learn about local government and what we're doing, because by the time people get through this, they're like, I had no idea that local government was doing so much. And this is just one component of local government, city government. There's a ton more out there. It is not necessarily a place for public comment. We have neighborhood councils and city council meetings, and we welcome public comment, and that is great, but this is really more informational focused. So thank you all for coming, and it looks like it's going to be an awesome group. I'm thrilled. I think you all probably saw the code of conduct. That is just par for the course these days, and in my mind, prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and I think honestly we're going to have a great experience together, and it's just the way things run these days. What else? So tonight we're hearing local government, which is basically we're going to hear from Mayor Hess, the executive branch. We're going to hear from some city councilors, the legislative branch. We're going to hear from a couple of muni court judges, the court or legal branch. Sorry, I'm grasping for words here. And then we're also going to hear from our engagement and neighborhoods office people, which is how we connect with everyone in our community. But we wanted to start this off. The experience we had in 2019 and 2020 was people really enjoyed hearing all of this information, but by the end of 6 weeks, they also really enjoyed having the opportunity to get to know people in the cohort. It's a wonderful way to connect. So if you choose to participate tonight, what I'd like to do is start off by, we could take like 20 minutes or so. I'd like to have people just introduce themselves. Just say your name, what neighborhood or area of Missoula you live in, and what you like about your neighborhood or Missoula. Something along those lines, because it's always interesting to see, because we really tried to geographically disperse everyone from across the entire city. So we did our best to pull from every neighborhood, and we were pretty much successful. So can I start over here in the first row with someone that I happen to know? And if you just want to say your name and where you live in Missoula and what you like about it.
My name's Heather Adams. I live at the South Hills, like Moose Can Gully. I love looking out over my back deck, and sometimes like the inversion, right? The clouds are really low and it just looks like a soup. And it's like kind of sunny up there. And I also love that my neighborhood has dogs. I mean, everybody has a dog and deer, and it's just gorgeous up there. Thanks.
Thank you. And next, hi.
Confusion on my name. My name legally is Laura Cat Hawkins, but I go by my middle name, so who knew that? Hello. I live in the Southgate Triangle, and that's like Russell, and I'm in the Playfair Park townhomes, and I adore that park across the street, let me tell you. And so does my new dog, Shadow. So we're having a heck of a great time. And I just love the townhomes area, and I'm getting to know my neighbors, and that's a happy thing too. And this will be my, I guess, my 4th year living there. But I've been here for 30 years, so not a stranger to Missoula.
Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Tristan. I grew up here in Missoula, and I live in the Riverfront neighborhood. And I grew up in Missoula, left for about 9 years, then came back to Missoula, which is a very typical story. You know, it's that kind of town. And I've been living here now, though, for 6 years since I moved back. And I was trying to think on the fly of what I like most about I love the Missoula scenery and just the culture of the town, and about my neighborhood, just like a lot of the historical buildings that are there.
Thank you. Go ahead, Pam.
Hello, I'm Pam Choler. I live, I would say, halfway up the Rattlesnake. We're right across from the Rattlesnake School. My husband and I have been there owned the house for a couple of years, just recently moved in because it took forever to get the house worked on before we moved in. Anyway, what we love most about the neighborhood is our neighbors. We have fantastic neighbors, and we have a dog that we walk every morning down through Pine View Park and across the bridge and through the Rattlesnake. So that's, we love living here. So.
Thank you.
I'm Barbara Pulley, and I live in the Southgate Triangle area and over by Trevor's Shopping Center. And I've been in Missoula probably longer than most of you guys, other than those people that were born here. I came out here to go to school at the university in '62 and really never left. And I really like Missoula, of course.
Hi, I'm Elena, and I live, I don't know what it's called, but it's off of Broadway, west of Reserve. And I think what I like most is that area is still developing, and we get a lot of animals out. We have foxes in our neighborhood, and of course, you know, the birds and that kind of thing. But it's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Holly. Lived in Missoula for 22 years. I live on the north side and love that neighborhood because it's a great mix of older folks like myself, young families, renters, owners. It sort of has everything you need close to the interstate, so you can zip to wherever you need to go real quick. And love our neighborhood.
My name is Craig Best. I'm a transplant from Indiana. I've been here for 28 years. First home was on the west side and lived there for 14 years, and now I live over in the Lewis and Clark area for the last 10. The thing I like about our neighborhood is the pocket parks and Splash, Montana, and the close proximity to trails and the school.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
My name is Tim Radel. I live in the south side. I've lived kind of all over Missoula over the last 22 years. It's funny, someone said Muscan Gully. I love Muscan Gully. I love the Bittery Trail. I love Blue Mountain, the outdoor stuff. It's just amazing. Missoula. Love Missoula.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay, we'll go to the next row back here.
Okay, I'm Charlotte Nickel, grew up here. I'm now in the Lewis and Clark neighborhood as well. And I like the sense of community we have for each other, and we had a really cool Halloween blocks, and I don't know, that was a fun thing.
Hi, I'm Andy Nelson. I live in the University District on 5th Street, right across Fairtrax Bridge. I love my neighborhood because it's a great mix of young folks, college students, and Missoulians that have lived here forever and ever. Also, it's right smack in the middle between my 3 favorite things: the university campus, which I moved here for, MCT, where I love to do theater, and the LGBT center where I work, so I can just walk to work every day.
Hi, I'm Larry Chase. My wife and I and 2 dogs are beginning our 2nd year as Missoula residents. We chose Missoula very intentionally after spreadsheets and research and traveling for 2 months to explore about 5 different communities. Missoula was our choice, and we absolutely love it. We are currently renting over in the Easy Street neighborhood by Ben Hughes Park, Hellgate Canyon area. Absolutely love that area from the standpoint of in 5 minutes we can be at the river. Ben Hughes Park, 9 months of the year feels like a private park because people only show up there in the summertime for rafting stuff. So excited to be here, and we're still looking to buy a house. So if anybody have a lead, we'll take it from you.
All right, yeah, that's a tough one, but okay. We're gonna solve it though. It's all good.
Yeah. Hi there, my name is Charlie Byrne, and I'm living lived all over Missoula many years, and I'm over on River Road now, pretty close to West Side Lanes, and it's a place I've never been before, and it's a little bit Orchard Homes, a little rural kind of, still in the heart of Missoula, and so I'm really liking that new area.
I'm Jordy. I live on the west side. I'm new to that part of town. Born and raised in Missoula. I've said I'll leave so many times, and I just kind of get further and further invested in the community here, and I love it. I'm never bored. There's always something to do. I find new activities, new organizations, new friends and community every day. So I don't know if I'll ever leave.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Holly. I believe I'm over in what in the map is the Grant Creek area. I've only been here about a year. I did not go to all the spreadsheet trouble, but I'm glad to know that someone else did the work and that I chose a good place to end up. So that's great. I'll be honest, I work a lot, so I don't really, get out and do too much. I'll probably will once the summer comes and it's no longer winter, but it's convenient. I like it. It's convenient to where I spend the most of my time. I do have really great neighbors that someone secretly shovels the snow for me. I've got to find out who that is. So they are a really great bunch. Even though I go to work early and come home late, so I can't complain.
Hey.
I'm Derek Downsher. I live on the west side. I left for a while for a job. I'm really happy to be back. West side, I love it, but I love how interconnected all of the communities are in Missoula. So happy to be here.
Thank you.
I'm Mark Melanek. I live in Trenton to the Port. I really enjoy the Blue Route Trail and the views from the Montana Rail Lake Park. I feel like a day like today, you can see a lot of peaks.
Thanks. Go to behind there.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Sarah. We have lived in a couple different places, University District, South Hills. Now we live in Grant Creek, and I love how they all have kind of a different vibe. I think what I love most about my neighborhood is the wildlife that traipses through the yard on a daily basis, and then the amazing trails that we have.
I'm Dexter Royce. I think I live in District 4, maybe District 5, or somewhere there. But like Ms. Sarah mentioned, I think what I love about my neighborhood is the neighbors. My neighbors are great. And being in Missoula now, probably about 6 years, 6, 7 years now, I got to answer a question that I'm frequently asked. What brings you to Missoula? So I've got to answer that question. It's the Witness Protection Program. Who would look for me anywhere else? No. I already enjoyed living in Missoula, working in Missoula, and the folks are great. People are great. The folks we interact with a home or work, which I see like most of you, spend a lot of time at work, so that should be your second home. Well, for me, it's my first home. So, but I do enjoy being in Missoula and interacting with people. My neighborhood is great.
Let's do the back row.
Hello, my name is Gregory. I might not be I'm probably the youngest person here. I just graduated college from Montana State, but my saving grace is that it's because of the engineering program, which U of M does not have, and I'm very excited to be working here and exploring what a wonderful city Missoula is. So, continuing to find all the amazing things that are happening here in Missoula.
I went to MSU as well.
Okay.
Jeremy, 16-year resident. I'm in the Franklin to Fort neighborhood, which is out by CS Porter School down to the Fort there, and then there's a little Franklin Park. I think that's why it's got its name. I moved out here 60 years ago to go to school, and didn't look back. I enjoy the outdoors, nightlife, food, all the culture that the school brings and everything else.
I'm Robert Dunlop. I live at 2316 West Kent. That's over by Rosars. And what do I like about Missoula? Location, location, location.
Could we have you go? My name is Tenzin. Apparently I'm a Robert's neighbor. Franklin to the Fort on Kent Street as well. And yeah, it's a good location, not too busy, but also accessible to the grocery stores and not far to commute to work. So nice to meet y'all.
Thank you.
My name is Laura, and I live in the Patty Canyon Fairviews neighborhood right off Whitaker. I moved out here in 2006. And I've lived all over town, but I love how my neighborhood is just slightly above the city, and so you're kind of in the city, but not in the city. And my favorite thing about Missoula is how integrated all the people are. It doesn't matter like socio standing or culture background. Everybody's really down to earth in a grounded community that really comes together. And I've been all over the country, and that's why I'm still here.
Thank you.
My name's Arthur. I'm originally from Northern Michigan. I used to live in the Rattlesnake here, which was spectacular. Now I live in the Slant Streets, or what I think the city calls Rose Park.
Right.
And I do like my new neighborhood though, because it's close to everything that I like most about Missoula, and the university where I work, the Roxy Theater, the Sports Exchange. So yeah.
Wonderful. Did we capture everybody who is in the cohort? We did. So thank you. I totally put you guys on the spot, but as true Missoulians, you rose to the occasion, and that's wonderful. So thanks for sharing. And I just love knowing about people, but I also hope that during the 6 weeks you kind of can get to know each other. And you know, the Mar Bar is next door. People want to go there afterwards. That's what the city council does sometimes when we have a difficult meeting. So anyway, I also grew up in Missoula. My dad is from Miles City and my mom is from Libby. And they met in college here. I grew up on Madeline Avenue, which is in the University District, running right along the base of Mount Sentinel. And as a historical fact, the Higgins family had, I don't know, 9 or 10 children, and all of the streets from Higgins all the way to Madeline are named after their children, and Madeline was their youngest daughter. So, I didn't know that. Just interesting factoid there. Now I live in Rose Park neighborhood, down the street from Arthur, and kind of close to Cafe Dolce, and that's where we raised our kids, and it's extremely central. In fact, I like it better than Madeline Avenue. It's just right in the middle of Missoula. You can walk anywhere, I can get anywhere, and I never have to go on Reserve Street, and this is good. So what I think we'll do for just a second is we have staff and city councilors and the mayor and our meeting court judges here, and I'm going to have each of you guys do this, and then we'll get started with our agenda tonight. So Jordan, why don't we start with you?
Hi everyone, I'm Jordan Hess. I'm mayor of the city of Missoula. I've been in this role since September of 2022, and before that served on the city council for 9 years. I came to Missoula in 2005 to attend the university and never left. And I was glad to hear that story repeated around the room tonight. But stayed here, came here for school and stayed here for our community and live over on Missoula's west side.
Great. And then we have city councilor Sandra Zika.
Hi, I'm Sandra Basica. I'm the Ward 6 representative. I live very close to West Side Lanes as well, so I have my own bowling shoes and locker there. Can't say that my game actually represents that. I have been in Missoula on and off. My mom was born here, born and raised here. My husband was born and raised here. We're both Hellgate grads. I went to Sentinel, so I did go to MSU for college, and then I fell in love with Hellgate guys, so I came back. And this is my 4th year on council, and this is pretty great.
Thank you, Judge.
Hi, I'm Jake Coolidge. I'm one of the municipal court judges. I've lived here since 2010 when I moved here for grad school. I live in the Lewis and Clark neighborhood. I've got 2 young girls, and it's very nice to have parks and schools and everything right within walking distance.
Judge Striana.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jennifer Striana. I'm another municipal court judge here in Missoula. I came to Missoula in 2001 for law school. I followed, my parents had actually moved here before me, so I would come to visit them and just kind of fell in love with it and said, I'm going to stay. I did 5 years in Helena, then was able to make my way back here in Missoula. I've been here for another 10 years, so always love Missoula. I live on the west side now, which I definitely love a lot. Lots of great places to walk my dog, so thanks.
Thanks. And then we've got a couple of other city councilors over here.
Hi, I'm Sierra Farmer. I'm the new Ward 2 City Council representative, filling Jordan C. I live on the west side. I have a cool old house that Craig West actually restored. He did all the hard work on it, and then I get to reap the benefits of it. I grew up in Missoula. My great-grandmother actually owns the Fox Farm. It's the Fox Farm Road up in Rock St. Paul, and my grandmother attended the original Lincoln School. So I attended this in 2019 and learned a lot, and now I get to be on City Council.
I'm Mike Nugent. I represent Ward 4 on the City Council. I'm born and raised here. My grandfather actually served on the Missoula City Council 50 years ago, so I kind of love that little tie-in. I'm going to tell you all a fact that I bet no one in this room knows. And Gwen mentioned that the streets in the university area are named after the Higgins children. But the Higgins were Irish, and the street that everybody pronounces Maurice is actually Morris, because the Irish pronunciation of M-A-U-R-I-C-E is Morris, and the French one is Maurice. But nobody believes me. So I'll just tell you, my middle name is Morris, spelled M-A-U-R-I-C-E. And my grandfather, Morris, helped write Montana's Constitution. So.
Oh. I'm going to start using Morris.
See?
Council
We are making progress.
like Councilor Morris. And so we also have some staff here. If you'd like to introduce.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Kalina Pritchard. I have been the one emailing you all. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the neighborhood specialist at the City of Missoula. Been there for just a little over a year. I also live in the Franklin of the Fort neighborhood. Been in Missoula for about 10 years, but honestly, my favorite part of my neighborhood is, just like everyone said, the connectivity of it. I mean, it's just so easy to be able to get to Brooks Reserve and then walk to downtown, walk to the river. It's wonderful. And then I also love being able to go hike, go see a show, have really good food, all within walking distance. Pretty crazy. So thanks for everyone for coming.
Hi everybody, I'm Ashley Brittner-Wells. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist for Community Planning, Development, and Innovation, one of the departments at the City of Missoula. I'm from Missoula. I grew up in East Missoula and went to the University of Montana, Hellgate High School. Sorry, Sandra. And I'm Arthur's neighbor. I live in the Rose Park neighborhood now, and I really enjoy being so close to all of the amazing record stores that we have here in Missoula. I was a KBGA DJ when I was in college, and so I like to go, I'm within walking distance of Rockin' Rudy's, Record Heaven, Ear Candy, and now Slant Street, and so I feel very spoiled and very excited that that's where I get to live, and so it's really nice to see all of you, and I'm excited to get to know you all over the course of the next few weeks.
Great, thank you. And Kelly, I've not forgotten you standing back there. Kelly's also staff with the city.
I'm the Missoula coordinator
neighborhoods with Kalina, and I'm with the Sentinel and the University. And I don't live in the city limits, but I enjoy the city limits.
Perfect, thanks. All right, and we have someone from MCAT, but they're kind of invisible, but you can certainly introduce yourself if you'd like to.
I'm Ron from MCAT, Missoula Community Access TV, and we're tasked to film your academy for the next 6 weeks.
Appreciate that. So that will be posted on the MCAT channel, and it usually takes a week or two, I feel like.
Yeah, as fast as you want. We can turn it around fast.
It's a nice resource for people who can't attend. Can refer them to that, and they can watch it. It's better in person, but still pretty good. So, okay, thank you. We're going to go into our agenda now, which I think we're going to start with Mayor Hess, who's going to talk about the executive branch and talk for a while. We'll take some questions, and then we'll move on to city councilors. Oh, and there are snacks up here. And we're going to pass them around at some point because none of this is coming home with me. So, there you go.
Well, thank you, Gwen, and it's great to meet a lot of you, and great to see others of you, including Robert, who I've known for several decades now, from another life before I was in Missoula. So grateful to have you all here. One of the things that I routinely say about our community is that we are this great community because we have made this collective commitment to one another. And we reiterate that commitment over and over and over again. And I think that's a big part of why you're here. You care about your community, you care about each other, you care about learning about your community, getting more involved in it. And this is hopefully a great opportunity to learn a lot about local government and engage with your local government. We are perhaps misunderstood at local government. Some of our duties, some of our responsibilities, some of what we're able to do, some of what we're not able to do. And frequently people will say, well, why did the city do that? Or why did the city allow that? And there's oftentimes a backstory, whether it's state law, whether it's federal law, whether it's a free market economic system, whatever that may be. Oftentimes we are blamed rightly or wrongly for things that happen within the city. The work of local government is fascinating to me, and it is broad, and there are many areas that we cover. And I look forward to going through some of those tonight, and to you all for the opportunity for you all going through that over the next several weeks. Missoula is a chartered form of government under state law. So we have adopted a charter, which is essentially the Missoula Constitution. It is a document that was adopted by the voters, and it spells out what our powers are as a local government. The charter was adopted a few decades ago. It's been modified a few times over the years. I think you've all received a copy of it. And that is the foundation of how our government functions. So we are a self-governing power under state law, and that means that we have the opportunity to adopt ordinances, to enact laws, and to generally chart our own destiny. Although that is largely under assault in recent years, in the recent decade at the Montana legislature. But self-governing local governments have the ability to adopt laws and to basically do anything that the state prohibits them from doing. So there are certain things we have to do. As a Class 1 city, we have to have a fire department. There are certain things that we may do under state law. There are certain things that we can't do. And then there's kind of this gray area of what where it's unclear. Under Montana state law, under the local government title, the powers of local governments are to be liberally construed. So essentially, if we're not prohibited from doing it, we're allowed to do it, is the general interpretation. Now the legislature, under 7.1.111, Montana Code Annotated, the legislature, this is the powers denied section of Montana Code. And the legislature has been adding powers to the powers denied section at an increasing pace for a decade now. So there are 25 things that local governments are prohibited from doing. 13 of those have been adopted in the last 10 years. 6 of them were adopted in the last legislative session in 2021. And there are several dozen up for consideration right now. So it's a trend that impacts local government's ability to serve the needs of our people. It's a trend that impacts our ability to chart our own destiny, and it's a trend that I hope we can raise some awareness about through this group and also through other channels around the state. Local decision-making power is part and parcel to how Montana has always worked, and it's something that I think we all should be alarmed about, the trend line away from that. As the charter, I just want to read the preamble, just to set the stage. We, the citizens of the city of Missoula, blessed by the natural beauty of our mountains, valleys, and rivers, enriched by the diversity and vitality of our people, mindful of the contributions made by those who lived here before us, and thankful for a good place to live and for the rights and responsibilities of liberty, as stewards of our community, do hereby establish and ordain this charter to provide accessible and effective government for ourselves and for our children. And it goes on from there. There's sections that outline the the roles and responsibilities of the municipal court, of the executive branch, of the legislative branch, of the neighborhood councils, which is a really unique structure within Missoula government. And so I'll talk a little bit about the roles and responsibility of the mayor and the executive branch, and then I'll turn it back over to Council President Jones for the next part of the program. Again, those self-governing powers allow us to really form what type of government we want to have in Missoula. And Missoula has selected what is generally called a strong mayor form of government. So Helena, Bozeman, every other large city around the state has a commissioner-manager form of government. So they have a city commission, and usually about 5 members. And then they have, most cities have a mayor, some don't. Livingston, I think, doesn't have a mayor. They just have a city commission. And that mayor is a part-time member of the city commission. And the city commission, including the mayor, hire a city manager to run the city. Now, Missoula is structured more like a big city. Most big cities have what's called a strong mayor form of government, where the mayor is the executive, the day-to-day managing executive that oversees the city operations. And that's how our system works. So we have the mayor who oversees the chief administrative officer and the department heads, and is really involved day to day in the operation of the city. And the city is a big operation. It is like being the chief executive of a $160 million company with 70,000 shareholders and a 12-member board of directors and 900 employees. So it's a big operation. It's a complex, sprawling operation, and it handles all sorts of functions, from making sure that someone shows up when you call 911 on the worst day of your life, making sure that when you flush the toilet, whatever goes away goes somewhere where it is treated and dealt with appropriately, making sure that the parks are cared for, that there are, in some cases, that there are after-school programs, that there is public art, that there, so on and so forth. And so we really have a broad function as a city government. The mayor specifically is responsible for, under the charter, for executing ordinances and resolutions passed by the city council. So the city council's a policy body. The mayor and the executive branch, or the executive administration are the ones in charge of implementing those policies. Also executing documents on behalf of the city, and really the day-to-day responsibilities around overseeing the department functions. So we have a really fantastic set of department heads right now. You'll get the opportunity to meet many of them throughout this program. But we have a really collaborative management style. So we have a senior leadership team, which is all of our department heads and our chief administrative officer. And we meet weekly and really make collaborative management decisions about how to implement the strategic priorities of the city. I think one of the strengths of our form of government is that we have the ability to really set vision and to try to carry out, to try to take the steps to carry out that vision. We can plant a flag about what kind of community we want to be, and then take steps to work to get in that direction of implementing that vision of who we want to be. So one of the chief ways that we do that, day in and day out, is through carrying out our strategic plan. Our strategic plan is a synthesis of nearly 100 adopted plans and policies that the council has adopted. So we have a growth policy that talks about how our land use growth and development should occur. We have a parks development plan that talks about how what our park standards are, how we develop parks. We have an urban forest plan. We have a jail diversion master plan that tries to divert folks from entering our Missoula County Jail. We have all of these different plans and policies that sort of exist outside of any hierarchy. Those have all been adopted by the council, and they've been informed by thousands, literally thousands of people making public comments or engaging in those processes. One of the things that we do in the administration is we've created a strategic plan that really takes all of these documents and kind of prioritizes them into a work plan or an action plan for accomplishing what we want to do as a city. Our strategic plan has 5 pillars, and they are safety and wellness, community design and livability, environmental quality, economic health, and organizational excellence. And all of those areas have action steps that we work, really that we test our actions. Does this action get us toward our goals? And that's small actions. Are we prioritizing staff time in the right way to accomplish the goals of the city, or larger actions? What do we need to do to safeguard our drinking water? That was a big decision around environmental health and environmental quality that we made several years ago when we acquired our water system. And so really everything we do is in service of that strategic plan, and that strategic plan is informed by the values that we understand our community to have. That is the role in a nutshell. Do you want me to take?
It's a lot of, it's good stuff. It's dense, but that's all right. That's good. That's why we're here tonight. And I don't know if there's questions or if you have.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I don't know what the time limit is, but I'd be happy to take questions if there's.
You've got like another 5 minutes, but you can talk more, or if people have questions.
Oh, and if anybody needs a pen or paper to take notes,
just raise your hand. Yeah.
Yes, Barbara.
I just
Yeah, I mean, and I would ask a question.
Back first, and then.
What do you have a question?
rolled, so maybe.
Oh, sure.
Ask somebody who isn't rolled, but I have a question.
Okay.
I'm just a more open-ended question as to those strategic plans. Are there any currently under consideration or reconsideration?
Yes.
And how long is that process if there is a plan in place? Is it good to go for 20 years, 30 years, or is it reviewed every 5?
Yeah. So some of our plans, so all of these different plans are on different timelines. The main strategic plan is a pretty short-range plan. It is a 3-year plan. It's on a 2-year update cycle. We're in the process of updating that right now, and that'll dovetail really nicely with this cohort, where there will be a draft of that sometime toward the end of your process, and we'd be glad to provide information as far as when that update cycle is happening. But the goal for that short-term cycle is that we have a lot of long-range plans. We have a long-range transportation plan that has a 40-year horizon. We have all of these plans that have long-term objectives, and the strategic plan is really that short-term version. So that's being updated right now. Again, it'll be updated every 2 years moving forward is the vision.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, Larry?
Curious, you talked about the strong mayor system, and the mayor is like a CEO, and you talked about 70,000 shareholders and a board of 12, et cetera. My curiosity is really, while you use that comparison, does a mayor need to have CEO skills as if they were running a company of that size? Or what are the differences that happen in leading a city government compared to running a corporation?
Yeah.
In a business?
Well, I think part of it is that the priorities that you're serving might be different. I mean, we truly are in the business of public service. So everything we do is really
how do we serve the public? How do we provide a public service? How do we provide for, how do we safeguard the future of our community? And so I think the motivation is really around serving our community. It is a complex organization, and it does require a fair amount of day-to-day management. We have a good team and as I mentioned, we have a good team in a collaborative structure, but it is a large organization that is ultimately managed by the mayor and the chief administrative officer. So that experience is in terms of overseeing that complexity is useful, but I think the objectives are different. I think, I think there's business-like principles that work in government, but really we're in the business of providing a public service, and so that's probably the distinction I draw. Yeah.
Funny, kind of tailing onto that, you mentioned that a lot of the other cities in Montana are commissioner-based. What is the difference? I've never actually lived in a city that is commissioner-based run. I've never heard of that.
Yeah. Commission and council, those terms can be somewhat interchangeable. So Helena has a city commission, which is sort of like our city council. Our city council has 12 members. Their city commission has 5 members, including their mayor. Generally, that city commission form of government has a city manager, and that city manager. So the difference, I guess, there is no one. In a commission format, a commissioner-manager format, there is no one person who can direct the work of the city manager, versus in our system, our chief administrative officer reports to me, and council sets policy, but does not. The reporting line is different, and so there's a lot more blurring. Like counties, have county commissioners, and they form a legislative function and an executive function, kind of in one branch. Our system is much more like a state or federal system where there truly are 3 separate branches of government.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who is the chief administrative officer?
His name's Dale Bickle. He's been with the city for about 8 years, I'd say. He was at Missoula County for a number of years before that, and he is indispensable.
He's great.
Yeah.
He will be here for the last
Yeah.
session for the budget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why did Missoula choose that structure when other cities in the state didn't?
We've had a variety of structures over the years, and I'm not sure. I think it was when we adopted our charter in 1980. Do you remember, Kelly?
It was like 89.
89, yeah. And we've had this format since then. There's been proposals to change that over the years. Butte has a unified city-county government, so they have one government for Butte and Silver Bow County, and there's been proposals to do things like that. This format was proposed and selected by the voters. There's a provision in the 1972 Montana Constitution where local governments, every 10 years, so in 2024, there will be a ballot measure about whether or not Missoulians want to study their form of government. And that would, if they vote yes, that would create a local government study commission that would potentially study our government, look at potential changes to that form of government, and then refer those to the voters. But ultimately, it would take a change of the charter. Yeah, Kelly?
The charter was born in 1997.
1997, okay. Yeah.
You mentioned a couple, or one thing that was like uniquely Missoula. Are there other uniquely Missoula kind of things, or what are other city councils or towns that you look to for like inspiration and ideas, or for policies, and how do you find that information?
Yeah, we have an association of cities and towns. It's the Montana League of Cities and Towns that we're a member of. We're also a member of the National League of Cities, and those are both great informational resources. So we've done some work in recent years, a lot of work around justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and most of that work came out of a cohort through the National League of Cities. So we were a member of this group that worked together. There were a dozen or so cities in that shared resources and information. So we utilize networks like that as much as we can. During the legislative session, we have Gwen serves on the board of directors for the Montana League of Cities and Towns, and we share information with other cities and towns quite frequently. we have a group of the big seven, the big seven cities where the mayors from those 7 cities have gotten together to talk about legislative priorities. And it's fascinating. I mean, there's a wide range of politics among that group, and there's a lot of consensus around legislative issues. So we find that truly we can do a lot of work at the local level, truly is nonpartisan, and so that's been a good network for sharing. A lot of cities look to us also. I mean, a lot of times cities across the state look to us for what we're doing. So it's kind of a two-way street. Maybe one more?
You mentioned that the state legislature is withdrawing powers that the city previously has assumed. Do we have a lobbyist at this particular point that is working with the legislature? Because there are several, you mentioned several bills, but 2 are pretty prominent. They're both related to fossil fuel infrastructure, Senate Bill 208, Senate Bill 238. And the committee did not have any representation, no testimony from the 3 major cities like Bozeman, Helena, or Missoula at its meeting last week. And I just came from another meeting, and that was a concern.
Yeah, we do. We have a lobbyist over there. Sometimes we strategically don't show up. Sometimes when we show up and testify, it actually hurts the cause. We've found that, and I'll say that pretty openly. We have a lobbyist over there who lobbies on our behalf. Today we had our assistant fire chief over testifying on a bill. We have staff going over all the time. Councilwoman Masika's over there frequently. We're pretty engaged. Sometimes the legislature will do the opposite of what the city of Missoula requests. So sometimes we stay out of the room just because it helps the cause.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you might want to think about that or look into it a little bit more.
Sure.
Because, like the NEIC, Montana,
Yeah.
mentioned Ann Hedges, I was just on a conference call, and she said it was pretty unconscionable that none of the cities actually testified in front of the committee, and the committee was a little surprised.
Okay. If there's ever anything that is a priority that we might not be tracking to, you can always let us know.
About fossil fuel infrastructure, whether or not the city wants it.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and answering
Yeah.
questions, and we appreciate your participation.
Oh, you're welcome. And please don't ever hesitate to reach out. I'm easy to find, and I'm happy to visit anytime. Thank you all.
Thank you.
So the next section for 15 or 20 minutes, we're going to cover city council, and then we'll take a little break. So I'm going to have my other city councilors come up here, because you're part of this too, not just me. So Jordan referenced the city charter, and there's a section in here on city council. It outlines our responsibilities, our areas of authority, and we do set policy. We finalize the budget after it's been put forth by the mayor, and we can change the budget and amend it. And there's other things like boards and commissions. We appoint people to certain boards and commissions. And it outlines, I am council president, and as council president, I have certain extra duties also. So this last year, when Mayor Engen became very ill, I stepped in and handled, I made appearances for him, I ran Monday night meetings, and then after he passed in early August, I was the interim mayor for 4 weeks. So there's things like that outlined in our charter, and there's so much to talk about, so I'm just going to touch on a couple things, and then we'll flip it to other counselors. But we have a lot of policy, of course, is in place, and it needs to mesh and meld in order to ultimately get where we're going. But there's a couple things I thought I would touch on that aren't really in the charter, but are, I think, our duties and our obligations. One of those is I see us as a conduit of communication. It's a little bit daunting to email the mayor about who's going to pick up leaves on the street, but your city councilor who knocked on your door, who you know their face, people feel very comfortable contacting us, and that's fine. I think that's truly part of our job. People should contact us. Oftentimes, it's a policy issue, and they want to sit down and have coffee and talk through something. And I do that a lot with people in my ward, or I answer with a substantive email. But sometimes it's just, there's a dead deer in the alley. Who's going to pick it up? Well, I know who to send that email on to get help for someone, or whatever the issue is. So I do see us as we are a connection in between city government and our people that we represent. I also think, and this is probably similar in other cities too, but I do feel like city council, frankly, is kind of our de facto social forum in Missoula to talk through stuff. Sometimes it's MCPS Board of Trustees meetings, sometimes it's county commissioners, but I think more often than not, for whatever reason, it truly is our city council. So back in like 10, 12 years ago, when there were issues with sexual assault cases at the university and in town, and questions as to whether they were being prosecuted sufficiently, there was a convening, and in chambers there was a big discussion about this issue and what we as a community should do. And the summer 2020, when George Floyd was murdered, that was also a big community discussion in chambers, and those are hard. Those are hard sometimes, but and other counselors can weigh in. My impression is we are the social forum discussion space, which I think is very valuable and good. And we do follow our rules of protocol and how to run a meeting. It's not just a free-for-all, but having that structure of how to run a meeting when it's a very intense topic and there's a lot of emotions. It ultimately, hard as they are sometimes, it's a good thing to do. But how about we go to Sandra next, and I would introduce Mayor Becerra was downtown, so she popped in. She's another city councilor. But we could talk for hours up here about what council does, but why don't you guys just share what you want to share, and then we'll take some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to talk about tonight, so I'm winging it. And first, I want to thank everyone for being involved. I think the more involvement that we have from the public, it makes a better community. So even if we disagree politically or disagree on what's happening, I also always want to hear what's going on, and I have changed my mind a few times, so keep those emails coming. So like I said earlier, I'm in Ward 6, and I have my ward mate, Kristen Jordan, and so we're an interesting neighborhood. We have the ACS, the Authorized Camping Site. We have the Johnson Street Shelter. We have not as many sidewalks as I'd like, and I bring that up a lot. And so being on council, we also, like Gwen said, we are also on other committees. So I'm also on the Local Emergency Planning Committee. I'm also on the Business License Appeal Board. I don't know how I ended up doing it, but I really enjoy it. I'm on the Human Trafficking Board. Is that what it's called? I'm like the unofficial liaison between the county and all the other the tribal units that are kind of get together and talk about how we can combat that. We're actually having a discussion about that next week during our Public Safety, Health, and Operations Board or committee meeting. So I encourage folks to look into that if they're interested. It will probably be a little graphic, so warn your little ones. So what Gwen said is we basically are just liaisons. If you have a frustration about something, you contact us, and then we make sure that the correct department is well known about it, and then either we come back to you, and then hopefully it gets settled. Maybe it doesn't. Sometimes a lot of things don't get settled, but at least we are there to help kind of make it move along. Because a lot of things that people, like if there's a neighborly dispute, a lot of the things that folks think the city can't get involved in, like there's this instance that I just emailed about, somebody's neighbor had a tree that was coming through their fence, and apparently that's a neighbor issue and not a city issue. So even though it's frustrating from my point of view that we can't just help everything, at least we can help guide you in the right direction. So I guess that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. I might come up with something later.
Yeah, thank you, Mirta Becerra, and thank you all for being here. This is really it's what makes Missoula great and informed about issues that we are all dealing with. So the more people that can participate in things like this, the better. I would agree with both my colleagues on what our role is. I would add that we are the bridge between the neighborhoods and the administration and the city. So, you know, I serve on the chair of the Public Works Committee. So if that toilet isn't flushing the way it should, or it's not going where it should be going, or the potholes, this is where we deal with those issues. And I get a lot of calls about street being plowed and sidewalks being clear of snow and whatnot. But I also think we are the bridge between macro policy and what happens on the day-to-day. And by that I mean that our responsibility is to craft and guide policy for the city. So a lot of things that require a macro look at how we deal with certain issues. So creating policy is something that we do. But we also we don't advocate, but we create awareness of an issue. We bring it to the forefront, we discuss it, we bring it to the community. So a lot of that happens on council as well. What else do we do? We talk to a lot of people. We serve on a lot of boards and committees for different organizations around the community as, again, that bridge between the city and that specific organization. I have enjoyed being on city council for now almost 6 years. I was appointed and then I had to run for my seat, very much like what Mayor Hess is doing right now. And my ward is Ward 2, so it includes the west side, everything west of Reserve on Mullen Road, and Grand Creek and west towards the airport. So the issues are very diverse, the demographics are very different, and it's an interesting and challenging ward to serve, but I have truly enjoyed getting to know a lot of my neighbors and neighbors from the different areas of the ward. So with that, I'll pass it on to my ward mate.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would maybe add is one of the good things that happened with COVID is that it made it so that you can now watch our city council meetings from home. So you can be in your stretchy pants and still comment. And, you know, we really do want to hear from you. or have a cocktail. We do want to hear from you. Like Mira just said, we represent Ward 2, which I think we learned on Monday has 50% of Missoula's growth in that one ward. And so I know the west side, or at least I think I do, but I don't necessarily know the issues that are happening in the Ranch Club or Grand Creek or 44 North. So I do want to hear from you and hear what is your issues. Otherwise, I don't know. So you can get angry with me for not knowing, but if I don't know, you should definitely reach out, and our email is very accessible. I think my phone number right now calls Station 5 Fire Department, so don't call me right now unless you want to talk to a firefighter. And yeah, I would just say that, you know, we are your neighbors, so reach out to us because we do want to help. That's why we're doing this. It's a very thankless job a lot of times. We're not doing it because it's the most fun, because we're doing it because we really do care. So.
If you could touch on land use decisions, that's something that we haven't covered yet. That's your wheelhouse.
You know, firefighters have a great perspective, so you might actually have a good conversation. Firefighters, they'll talk. You know, I'm Mike Nugent, I'm the chair of the Land Use and Planning Committee for City Council, and the mayor mentioned, kind of talking about the strategic plan being the short view, and then we have all kinds of long-term plans. And one of the biggest takeaways I've had being on council is if there's a place for people to participate in the process and really make a difference in the kind of strategy and prioritization of projects in the city, it's participating in the planning process. So transportation plan, downtown master plan, like all of these things, like when there are public opportunities to participate, that really is where people can truly make a difference, in my opinion, in their community. Because once the council adopts that plan, it's basically the council telling the mayor, this is what we want you to prioritize, and have the staff prioritize in how they spend time, how they apply for grants, how they do all those sorts of things. So that would be kind of just a big, takeaway that I would hope people would have from this process that they would share with other people. Land use and planning in the city of Missoula is very interesting right now and always, but we are actually undertaking a long overdue and much needed code reform process, which is looking at all the codes, not just specifically the land use, but all as they tie in to kind of look at how we delegate time or delegate authority to staff to make certain decisions, what has to come before the council, what governs certain permits and processes, and how we determine how we want Missoula to grow. And that's another one, just giving a big pitch about participating in planning. That is a huge one that we need a diverse group of opinions. It's, because really, the goal is to make a code that's digestible and easy to understand for everyday Missoulians. And so that means we don't just need builders, we don't just need architects, we don't just need environmentalists, we don't just need any one type of person or group. We need the community to participate and to talk about what's important and how it impacts them. Because the truth is that once something gets to council, staff has interpreted code that we've set. They are governed by state subdivision laws and regulations. So there's actually very little leeway that we have to make decisions on projects. It's not nearly as broad as sometimes public commenters want us to hope it will be. And I think that that's something that in this process, I think it's week 3, maybe, you will learn a lot more about that. I think that it's something, it's a good takeaway for people, and it's something that the more people understand how that works, the less frustration I think there is at council, because often we'll get a group of people that come in and make a ton of public comment on something they don't like in a development, and it's not really within the decision space of council, so we then have to kind of say, well, we can't do anything about that, and that's kind of governed by state law and things like that. So I just really want to thank you all for participating in this. I think this is great. Sierra mentioned she went through this, so maybe one of you will be in city council soon, yeah, I'll just look around, pick out what you think it is, and we'll go from there. Gwen, is there anything else you want to say?
No, I always tell people I hate change. I am not good with change, so I love being on city council because I know what's coming. Missoula is changing a lot right now. There's no way around it, but we're going to do it as gracefully and as best we can to keep our people here and welcome those who are coming. But we are in a period of change right now. So we could take a few questions for a few minutes, and then we'll take a little break before our second half. So, yes.
Is there a good central spot, whether it's the website or somewhere else, for additional information if we want to learn more about City Council and how to engage and look at some of these policies?
So our engagement specialist will speak later on tonight. She'll close it out, but in general, if you go to the city website, there is a city council page with a lot of information there. And then you can go to our meetings and agenda page, and if you're tracking our meetings and the agendas, you're going to see what topics are coming up. That's the best way off the top of my head, I would say.
And engagemissoula.com. That's a tremendous one. And I know you're going to talk about it, but I want to say that out loud.
Yeah. There's more.
Also, all of our meetings are recorded forever in perpetuity. So I would recommend just if you weren't able to see one, if there's a topic, I would recommend watching it. I think it's super exciting. Some folks don't. My husband actually texts me sometimes and says, your job is so boring. Yeah, that's recommended as well.
I can't believe he watches.
He watches almost every single one.
Barbara?
I'm curious how much of the land planning works in conjunction with the county planning?
Sometimes it works very well, and sometimes there are just different policies. Both the city and the county have growth plans that they've adopted through their kind of legislative bodies. And parts of those growth plans fit very well together, and parts we have somewhat different priorities. There is a kind of a joint planning area around the city where we've acknowledged that these are areas the city may grow into, and those conversations are at least had together. We actually updated the interlocal agreement between the city and the county to just recently to make it easier for staff of the city and the county to kind of do some long-term planning together on where growth might be. utility service use, things like that. So there is definitely an effort to work together, but they are two separate bodies that do not respond to each other.
How about traffic, long-term traffic plan?
That is a Myrta question.
I would say it's the same. We have a long-range transportation plan that guides a lot of the future growth in terms of infrastructure extension. And our regulations we've been working in collaboration with the county so that, you know, whenever the city annexes a part of the county, the streets and the roads kind of look the same and function the same. So we have that collaboration with the county as well. But same as with any land use decision, those are two separate jurisdictions that don't, we can work together, but we're not responsible for each other's implementation of the guidelines that we have.
Larry?
A little bit of a follow-up of something you said, Sandra, about changing your mind. And I'm curious, and it's not just for you, it's for all of you, is what kind of impact does public testimony on an issue that you can impact, like state law is not an issue, but it's something that council can impact. What public testimony versus one-on-one conversations outside of the council meeting, what kind of impact does citizen input have on your decision making?
It has a lot, honestly, because with some things I haven't quite made up my mind yet. You know, I go in and, you know, let me see the presentation, let me see what the public has to say about it. And then honestly, just because we all have our own lives, you know, every single one of us is an individual. And I have no idea what's going on in your life or your life. And it's really interesting seeing it from another perspective. I try to look at everything from every point of view and then just telling a story about how this impacts you in a way that I can understand. It really does have a huge impact. Like, oh gosh, it was during I think it was a public works meeting, yeah, because you were chairing. And in the new library, there was they wanted to have the aquifer little demonstration thing on the third floor of the library, and I came in going, that's stupid. I don't think we should spend taxpayer money on that. I think that's a dumb idea. Heard the presentation, I was kind of changing my mind, and then some of the public comments said that this is really good for the children and for even adults to learn about, to learn what's going into the aquifer, what's happening, what's going into our rivers. And I said, oh, yeah, why didn't I think of that? It's really important to learn it, and everything that you can learn from an interactive stage it actually is really beneficial. So I changed my mind that day, and a lot of just basically telling things from your point of view is, I guess, that answer. If anybody else wants to take that.
I would add, if a public commenter has a good sense of what our decision space is on an item, that is helpful, because sometimes their comment is, you know, well, I like having a field next to me because I like to see the sunset and I like to see the wildlife, but the field is private property owned by someone else who's going to build there. So when they say it should never be built on, that is not within our decision space. So the better someone can read the materials ahead of time and focus in on our decision space, that I think that is very helpful and relevant, and that starts to have more impact.
And I would just add to that, especially in land use, that the decisions council make, the staff has to support by findings of fact that we discussed during the hearing. So if somebody shows up during a land use hearing and just says, I don't like it, don't do it, and then their next door neighbor stands up and says, I like it, do it. Neither of those comments are really useful in our decision-making space. I love that we're in an environment where people can come make them, but you know, if the comments really tie into, here's why this is a problem, and I think you're missing something you've said as a priority, that sort of comment really, I think, helps us make decisions a lot more, because it points to something and says, hey, maybe you haven't thought about this. So I think that we really actually value public comment and public feedback, but if it's tied to kind of a here's why, I think it has more impact.
And I do want to add on to that, if you ever have any solutions that we haven't thought of, please bring them up, because you know we can't think of everything.
Yeah, I would say public comment has triggered more thought process and given us different ideas. It is led to amendments, or it is valuable. So
I just wanted to, I was going to say the same thing, that a lot of times public comment means that we can delay something until we have better information, we're better educated on an issue, look at different, look at it from different angles, and it might still not result in what the public wanted originally, but it has given an opportunity for the city council and the staff to really go deeper into one issue in particular, and just have more time to really have a well-informed decision.
We had one more question over in here.
Yeah, so as far as I understand it, the mayor and the administration implement policies and ordinances that are decided by you guys. How do you stay informed on state law, or who informs you on state law, especially as it changes?
So we have a city attorney and staff. He has several attorneys, and there's civil and criminal. So yeah, and our city attorney happens to be Mike's father, and it's been there for how many years?
100. He tried to ask that on the record the other day.
Yeah,
and he didn't answer.
So Jim Nugent, and my first month on council, I kept calling him Ted Nugent. A little bit fast and furious, but city attorney Jim Nugent advises us on where the sideboards are, or if we are going in an area that frankly is not going to be supportable legally, he lets us know, and if we
Right
need
away,
guidance.
too. He's very quick on
We like
it.
to get emails from him that are all caps
In the subject line.
Okay, whoopsie daisy.
And he watches our meetings, so we get it live.
Yeah.
I was going to ask if he participates in the meetings, or how do you guys reach out to him, or is he like an active part of council meetings?
He definitely participates when he wants to. He raises his hand on any community meeting and participates. If a council member reaches out with a question, probably annoying to all of us sometimes is he will reply to all of us so that we all get the same information, so that we're hearing the same thing. And the mayor kind of mentioned that the mayor is responsible for overseeing the day-to-day administration of the city. There are two city employees, the city attorney and the clerk, who have a responsibility under state law to also advise the council. So that expectation is that it'll provide information to both of us.
One last question.
I just have a quick one. You were talking about notification for planning issues. How do those happen? Because oftentimes I hear about the project after it's already been approved.
So it depends on what the project is. Subdivisions and different things have different types of notices. Every public hearing we have is advertised in the Missoulian. However, the best place to go to be up to date on what's going on in the city, is Engage Missoula. And actually, if you look into Engage Missoula, you can find a list of any project that somebody has submitted an application to the city for in land use, even if it's nowhere near the hearing process. So you can actually look and see what may be coming down a pipe. Now, the interesting place that we're all in as council members is once that application is submitted and that is going to come before council, we really cannot take individual meetings with you to talk about a land use project. All of our conversations with both you and the potential developer have to happen in public meetings and in spaces where the public can participate. So I honestly think the best place for people to pay attention to is Engage Missoula.
So then if the project is somehow, like I live near the roundabout on Orange Street as we go up to the interstate, like there was a big public meeting about that, but I don't see those on a city level. I see them more when they're engaged with the state.
Well, it depends, like there's lots of qualifications because it depends on who's responsible for the street. So the roundabouts at Orange Street, and Mirta could probably answer this a little more, those are state roundabouts. So the city has a role in that, but if the state wants to do something on a state-controlled road,
Yep.
they can.
Yep. I also wanted to add that who gets notified and how far or where signage for certain subdivisions, for example, or a rezone, how that's determined, it's in our state law, so we have to follow. It's not that the city didn't want to put a sign letting you all know that a subdivision's happening or a rezone. It's all based on our state law that requires that, 150 feet from the subject property needs to be notified, but not 300. And you might live 300 and still know that it's happening or might be happening, but you don't get a letter or you don't get notified because that's all per statute, and our staff has to follow those regulations.
If I watch Engage Missoula, I might know about that.
Yes.
Yes. You will know because our staff does a great job. Okay, definitely stealing thunder here.
Yeah, but it's good to reemphasize it. For
and-
public process, I would say too, for something like on the level of a rezone, there is a lot of notification. If there's a lot next door to you and they don't need a rezone, and they submit and get their permits and they're just gonna build, I don't think there's much, if any, notification. So there's different
If they
levels.
If they meet current building code, and they're not,
Yeah.
might not be any notice, because we've already set that policy and that's following. And another thing that confuses people is if another government body wants to do something in the city, so like the county runs the fairgrounds, they want to change their sign doesn't actually meet our sign code, we can't actually tell them what to do, but we have to hold a hearing. So it's the most kind of uneventful thing that we do, council in my opinion, because we hold this public hearing where we say, hey, this county entity wants to do this. We can't tell them no, but now you know.
So this is what happened when you have 5 city councilors. We went a little long, but that's all right. We're gonna just take a 5-minute break and then come back. We're gonna have our municipal court judges talk to you and then our engagement folks. Okie dokie.
And I apologize, I had to dip out early, but I will leave some cards and I will be at future meetings if you guys have any questions for me.
Okay, we'll just take a 5-minute break. We're gonna get started again, and I'll come around. Now we're gonna have our 2 municipal court judges present to you and take some questions. I'll turn it over to you guys.
Thanks. So again, my name is Jake Coolidge. I'm one of the municipal court judges. There's 2 of us here, but there's actually 3 of us. Eli Parker couldn't be here tonight, and I'm Department 3, Eli's Department 2, and Jennifer's Department 1. We're gonna divide and conquer here a little bit. So I figure I'll start by explaining kind of municipal court structure, what it does in its jurisdiction, and I think Jennifer's going to talk about what we do, kind of the more applied stuff we're doing. So municipal courts, to kind of piggyback of what the mayor said, are kind of statutory construction in that cities can adopt municipal courts. There's kind of prerequisites though, because it requires towns of a certain size, and it's basically a formalization in other towns of what are called city courts. So other smaller communities might have city courts that don't require their judges to be attorneys, they're not courts of record, kind of like a deformalized process. But basically larger communities can opt into municipal courts. And so Missoula has, and is one of, I think, 5 cities in the states that has. And it formalizes the process. It requires the attorneys or the judges be attorneys who practice for a specified number of years. It requires them to be courts of record, and basically requires that they look, walk, and talk like a district court. And so that's what we have. And so, but we're also what's called a court of limited jurisdiction. So the types of cases that come before the municipal court are restricted in their scope. So you have the district court, which is the big beautiful courthouse across the street. That is a court of general jurisdiction, so much broader scope. Municipal court deals with lesser. So we're kind of a strange, compared to the other branches of government, we're kind of strange in that we're quasi city and county, and that we technically have jurisdiction over the entire county. But how it's limited is that we specifically only deal with, right now in Missoula Municipal Court at least, only deal with criminal cases that are misdemeanors. So that is to say, criminal cases that are punishable by a year or less maximum possible penalty. And they also have to happen within our jurisdiction. We technically have civil jurisdiction over a lot of stuff that we don't really exercise because the criminal jurisdiction occupies pretty much what we can manage. We also have civil jurisdiction over order of protection cases. So that's a very small percentage of our caseload, but it's if someone feels that they need court protection from somebody else and they feel that they have been the victim of an enumerated offense, which is to say an offense that's listed out by statute, they can petition the court for that protection. And if we grant that for approximately a 20-day period until there's a hearing, the respondent, so to speak, is prohibited from doing whatever we say they are prohibited doing. And then we have a hearing, and then we determine whether or not that order of protection will be made permanent. That's a misnomer because we actually set that for a period of years. I don't know why they call it permanent. But then 99.5% of our caseload are criminal cases. Again, these misdemeanor cases. And so they could be municipal ordinance, which are laws enacted by the city council. They could be state statute violations. Most are state statute violations, and they are either Title 61 offenses, which govern traffic offenses. So that could be anything ranging from not having insurance on your car, not having your registration, not having a valid driver's license, all the way up to DUIs, first, second, and third. We also preside over what are called Title 45 offenses, and these are kind of your more typical criminal offenses. So things like theft, things like partner family member assault, things like trespass. And so what we preside over in that process procedurally stems from every day at 9:30 in the morning. We preside over hearings of initial appearances of people who were arrested the night before. We'll hear arguments about whether or not they should be held on bond pre-trial or whether they should be released, what kind of conditions of release should be imposed. And then we also schedule out future hearings. And so then in the pretrial process of those cases, we also will preside over things like motion to suppress evidence, other legal issues, jurisdictional issues, those kind of things, and we make ruling on those things. And then we also preside over trials, right? And so that would be, I don't know if any of you got jury summons to Missoula Municipal Court, but that happens every Thursday, sometimes, I guess.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And so we would preside over jury trials, and as the jury trial occurs, we preside over the legal issues that occurred during that trial, and if the jury renders a guilty verdict, we would be responsible for determining sentencing. Municipal court's also interesting, and it's different from other courts, is that we also dictate a lot of our own policy. So we also have this unique opportunity to develop our own programming in ways that perhaps other courts can't, because we are kind of tied in as the administrators of our court, which is really categorically different than district court judges and Supreme Court judges, because we kind of have that opportunity to structure our own policies. We are all elected. There are 3 of us. Previously, before this last year, it was that there was one elected judge, and that judge, previously Judge Jenks, could hire or appoint, essentially, assistant judges, sub-judges that presided over varying levels of the docket. But because of legislative changes in the 2021 session, now all municipal court judges throughout the state have to be elected. And based on kind of city council adjustment to that statute, how it functions in Missoula is that we happen to have all 3 judges elected on the same election cycle. So every 4 years, all 3 municipal court judges are up for re-election. I would say that we are very fortunate right now because the 3 of us who are currently municipal court judges collaborate very productively, and we work collectively together very well. We all know each other professionally from a previous life. And so we're speaking that level of administrators. We're also very able to implement some of our policies that we like to implement, and we work collaboratively together, which I feel like is a very good use of certainly administrative resources. If you hear horror stories about what may have happened in Missoula Justice Court about 5 years ago, there are challenges certainly if you don't have judges who work together, but we've been very fortunate to all work together and implement a lot of what we're trying to do. So it seems like a good time to turn it over to you.
Great. So just a little bit more background. So we've been here just 1 year, so we were elected just last year, and so we're the first 3 that were on this kind of new kind of procedure or structure. So so we're 1 year in, and we have implemented or created 3 new programs that we are very excited about. So I think what we wanted to do just overall, kind of change the court or modify it in some way to be a more solution-based court rather than really just punishment-based. Again, we're dealing with a lot of, they're all misdemeanor offenses, but most of them, even as the misdemeanor offenses, are even very, really low-level traffic offenses, or the people who are committing these crimes are struggling with poverty, mental health, or addiction. And so when we look to solution-based approaches, sometimes jail or fines are not really the right solutions that will actually affect what's causing the root problems here. So some of the, one of the programs that we created is traffic court. Which may not seem like a big issue, but one big issue that is for a lot of people is driving while suspended. So if your license is suspended for a variety of reasons, it really just kind of becomes a whole. Like if you have a parking ticket and you fail to pay the parking ticket, then they used to be able to suspend your driver's license. and then you get charged with driving while suspended, and then you get more of a fine, and it just becomes a cycle that people cannot get out of. And so, or if you fail to appear at a court appearance, that your license can be suspended, or if you fail to do something, a condition of your sentence, community service or things like that, your license can be suspended. And so it can be really difficult navigating the Department of Motor Vehicles and finding out the other courts of where you are suspended and how to lift those holds and things like that. So what we've done is created a traffic court, which we pull out these, rather than just setting, so if somebody gets charged with the driving while suspended, rather than just setting them for trial and just putting them on the path of the other criminal cases, we kind of pull them out and put them on a separate path where we have a traffic court team of 3 or 4 people who have worked within the court, and they meet with this person, they review their driving record, and they will facilitate. They say, well, it looks like you need to appear in Flathead County or Kalispell. They will help call the court and try to arrange a video appearance or something like that, or figure out a way to resolve that hold, or multiple holds and things like that. Or they call the DMV and they can get, we have kind of a different way to get through on the phone, which is super helpful. And so we can, we just kind of help them lift these holds and move to getting reinstated, which is, that's the goal, rather than just saying, here's your fine and move on. We're actually getting a lot of people reinstated, so they're no longer getting these charges, and they can be more productive, because so many people cannot get a job if they don't have their driver's license. So many people are very limited on that sort of thing. So that's a very exciting new program that we've started, that we've already seen success with for that. The other program we've started is called Shelter Court. And this court, it has room to expand to great, I think, capacity. But right now it's pretty limited. But what we're doing is we're trying to just reach people who don't, for a variety of reasons, feel comfortable coming into municipal court to address whatever issue they have, if they have an outstanding warrant or some other issue, if their license is suspended, or they just have charges that are pending for years ago, things like that. So it's primarily our homeless population. So we're going to the shelters, and we're holding court at the J Street, the warming shelter, and we're having court at the Poverello Center. So we're in the courtroom, it's remote, so we have employees working, or they show up at the shelters, and they're finding people saying, hey, we know you have a warrant, do you want to get that cleared up, do you want to get it resolved today? And we ensure that they won't be taken into jail at all. And so what that means, it doesn't mean that everybody gets a free pass, so that there's a lot of kind of misconception about it. What it means is if somebody does appear on something that could have the potential of jail as a sentence, then we'll at least quash their warrant and we'll reset it for another hearing. But I would say 99.9%, or actually 100% of the cases we've seen so far are really just warrants that they've had for offenses, trespass, open containers. They're primarily ordinance violations, but they've had these warrants for years, 5, 10 years. They just never can make it to the court. So we go to them and we get it cleared out, and then they don't have these warrants that are hanging over their heads anymore. And that has been incredibly successful as well. We just do it once a month, and our numbers grow, and we're clearing out warrants, and we're clearing cases, and we're resolving cases for these people that they've had for years. So that's exciting. Our plan for that is to kind of take it to the next step of connecting service providers with people who are appearing in our shelter court. So if somebody is experiencing homelessness, they're at the shelter, they get one of their cases resolved, and then maybe a condition of that sentence, if they plead guilty or want to plead guilty, is, hey, go sit and meet with this case manager and see if you can, is there things that we can work on to maybe move to next steps in terms of housing or other mental health resources or chemical dependency resources. So connecting them with service providers right at that location as well is kind of the future goal of that program. So, and lastly, we have a kind of a less exciting, but is our pretrial program that it's for people who appear in court, they plead not guilty, and they are subject to some conditions while their case is pending. And we did a ton of research, and we've talked to a lot of folks about kind of the best evidence-based pretrial programs. So we established one that really would, I mean, we could talk all day about pretrial and all of that sort of thing, but it's called PASS. And we have peer support specialists that generally what they do is the people while their case is pending is they'll get text message reminders of when their next court dates are. Because the two goals while someone's on pretrial release is we don't want them to commit any new offenses and we want them to show up for court. So as the evidence has shown and all of the research is that the best way to do that is for text message reminders of when they have court and to just have general check-ins with a peer support specialist. So that's what we have, and we have we place people on different tiers, tier 1, 2, and 3, and that's generally what it consists of, is really just checking in with our peer support specialists, making monthly reports, and then also text message reminders. So in that short period of time, that just started in October, we've already seen a decrease in our failures to appear, and so we feel like that program is going to continue to be super successful. And yeah, so that's year 1, and we have lots more plans, I think, so very excited. Yeah.
Did I hear some rumors about a family court? Something to do with the domestic violence or?
Yep, so I think that's in Justice Court. I think that Justice of the Peace Alex Beal, I think, is starting a domestic violence court.
Wow.
That's kind of in the works, yeah.
And so just to be clear, the Justice of the Peace and the Justice Court are kind of like our county counterparts, right? So they have similar, we have what's called coextensive jurisdiction, so they also have misdemeanors in the county, but functionally we end up more city limits and they end up more county-based.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you said there's 3 of you, is that correct?
Right.
So can you give us an idea of what your volume of caseload looks like?
Yeah, I think that we have about, from the criminal docket, I think we have approximately 7,000 to 8,000 cases a year. And of course, not all cases resolve in the same year that they're filed. So I think that our rough analytics suggest that we've processed or touched or are managing 12,000 cases since we took over last year. So, but a lot of those, to be fair, a lot of those are people coming in with a speeding ticket, pleading guilty, some penned for a long time, so I think that number has more shock value than it actually represents. We're one of the biggest courts in the state, for sure. I think behind only Billings Municipal Court and maybe Great Falls Municipal Court, but if that kind of answers. Ish. Mm-hmm.
What is your perspective on electing versus appointing judges? And what's the advantage, disadvantage of, or partly I always thought it was weird that you elected a judge, but I don't know.
Well,
I know a lot about it.
Yeah. How much time do you have?
I know.
But I mean,
there's a bar next door.
There you go.
Yeah, right. So I think that probably the United States Supreme Court is the best example of how, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, that appointments are designed to depoliticize the process. But I think that there's a strong argument to be made that it's hyper-politicized the process to the point of kind of absurdity. I know there's currently a bill pending in the legislature that would require judges who are running for office to identify their party affiliation, which is kind of an interesting bill, because right now it's a nonpartisan position. My personal belief is that I feel like when the judiciary is appointed, the problem is that no one pays attention to the judiciary, especially at courts of limited jurisdiction, where it's actually the judiciary, or most people have engagement with the judiciary, is because we focus so much on the Supreme Court justices of the world, but your likelihood of ever having a case before them is virtually nothing. But your likelihood of having a case before your municipal court judge or your justice of the peace is remarkably high comparatively. So from my perspective, I think that judicial elections encourage judicial transparency and an honest discourse about judicial policy that judicial appointments would mask. But I think reasonable minds could disagree on that.
One more question about the fact that there are 3 judges elected on the same cycle. Do you find that potentially problematic?
Definitely potentially problematic. I mean, so like I said, we were the first 3 that ran for this first time. And so this is the first time there's been 3 elected judges. So in 4 years, I mean, yeah, it could be very problematic. I mean, if we choose not to run, I mean, I think we are, but if not, or if you have 3 who are, somebody could come in and say, I don't want to do any of these programs, right? And then they're not bound to do anything, and they can run their court the way they want. So it'll be very interesting. I think that, or all 3 of us don't get reelected, and then you have 3 starting over every 4 years. That could also be, problematic. But yeah, I think it's just the nature of, how it's going to be. So.
And to add, I mean, kind of these structural differences between the county and the city is like you might notice when you vote in local elections that you vote for the county clerk of court, who is largely responsible for administering logistically the clerk. In municipal court, that's centralized beneath the judges. And how it's written in ordinances, there is a chief municipal court judge, and it's initially determined by seniority. And if there's no one there, so for instance, if there were 3 new judges, it's who gets the most votes in the general election. So you could conceivably have 3 judges who totally disagree with one another, and the consolidation of the power-making authority could be put on someone based on
popularity.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to move on.
Yep. Good.
Sorry, I know more people have questions, but you can always email us questions and we'll get it to the judge. And yeah. But
So with 9,000 cases a year, there's 3 judges. There must be a staff just tells you.
Lots of great staff. Yep. We have about 20 clerks overall. In terms of court administrator, deputy court administrator, but 20 staff members who are incredibly important. Yes.
well,
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to talk about engagement and how can you engage with city government. Again, my name is Kalina Pritchard, and I'm the neighborhood specialist. After me, Ashley Brittner-Wells will talk a little bit. But really, and I have a couple things floating around. It's probably not the easiest way to pass that out. Sorry for everyone doing that. But it's a resource sheet that you can put in your binder. A lot of really great phone numbers to help. Sorry. And just emails and things like that, really helpful tools for you. And then I also have the neighborhood brochures to kind of get a good idea of what the neighborhood's office is. So I'm going to kind of like run through this a little bit. But anyway, so the neighborhood's office was actually created in 1996 when it was approved through the city charter. The neighborhood's office has had a couple different homes. Since it was created, it's been, I think, in the mayor's office, city clerk's office, housing, and currently lives in the CPDI, which is Community Planning, Development, and Innovation, which is actually what the next session will be focused on at the library. So don't come here, the library. So our office is actually within community planning. And that's our staff. So again, Kalina, this is old. I just got married. My name is Pritchard and Kelly. And that is in your resource package too. So the purpose of the neighborhood councils and the leadership teams is to really provide an open process for all, to encourage resident participation in civic government, including different viewpoints and perspectives, building opportunities for neighborhood initiated projects, strengthening neighborhood participation, advising city council and the mayor on different specific neighborhood issues, and building cooperation and improving communications between residents and city government. So this is a fun graphic explanation really quick. We have 20 neighborhoods in the city, kind of crazy. We have 18 functioning ones, and that's because the north side and west side are together. And then the Marshall Canyon is one that was newly created and is not active yet. So 18 working ones, and everyone who lives within the neighborhood boundary, so the bottom map, and y'all love, I'm glad everyone knows what neighborhood you live in, but everyone who lives within the neighborhood is a part of the neighborhood council. The neighborhood council holds a general meeting once a year, and the leadership team is the one that kind of sets that all up, but that's a time for the neighbors to come together to talk about issues that are in their neighborhood, hear from city staff or different presenters, and a way to meet each other. And at those general meetings is when we elect a leadership team, and that's a group of 5 to 7 neighbors. Any resident, occupant, owner, renter is part of the neighborhood council and can be on the leadership team. And the leadership team we'll go into in a little bit, but they meet regularly and help host these general meetings. And then the inner circle there is the officers from the leadership team, and in the middle there is the community forum that I'll go into, but it's held on the 4th Thursday of every month. And I have a slide on it, so I'll go into that later. So leadership teams. 4 to 7 members usually. We have a couple leadership team members in this room, which is really wonderful. Charlie, Tristan, and Derek. And I think I caught all of, Barbara, there we go. And so it's a really great way. They meet regularly. The officers, there's chairs, secretary, treasurer, and then a community forum representative. But the leadership team responsibilities are to hold regular leadership team meetings and at least one general meeting per year. They set agendas, take minutes. Those are open meetings, and so they have to follow all of our open meeting laws, and anyone is able to come to the leadership team meetings. Obviously the general meetings, but can co-participate in the leadership team. They facilitate civic participation, and really they help with communicating, engaging, and learning from both the neighbors and city government, and making sure that those are bridged together. They build opportunities for communication, neighborhood-initiated projects, and they really serve as an ambassador for their neighborhood. Actually, could you go back with that? No, it's okay, that was my bad. Those are just 2 pictures. The top one is the north side, west side, holding their general meeting in October. It was a really wonderful discussion with facilitated table discussions. And the bottom one is Farley's Patty Canyon in the beautiful summer months. Don't we all wish we were there? So the community forum, I missed a U. So we have one representative from each neighborhood that goes to the community forum. We meet in these council chambers the 4th Thursday at 6 p.m. every month. And really what the community forum is there for is to have the neighborhoods be able to share information, hear from one another, and be able to gain information to help their neighborhood, but then also to help other neighborhoods if they're facing a specific issue. Also if there's citywide issues or different something like the Midtown Master Plan, which involves a couple different neighborhoods. It's a way for them all to talk and understand what's going on. And we also have presenters that come from the city or from around the community to talk about specific projects. So the Energizers are fun programs that we have that we're able to offer in conjunction with the leadership team and different organizations in the city. So we have the neighborhood cleanup, which is usually in April. It's a partnership with Parks and Rec, Garden City Compost, and Republic Services. We get supplies donated, and the leadership team can create or build a group of folks from the neighborhood to go and clean around in different parks or areas, sidewalks, things like that. The Treeing of the Neighborhoods is something from Trees for Missoula and Urban Forestry Department, and that's specifically in just one neighborhood right now, but they're looking to grow it. The Traffic Circle program, we are able to have a grant program, small grant, $100 to $150 we can give out to anyone who adopts a traffic circle and helps with mulch or plants or anything like that to help beautify those traffic circles. We help out with Sunday Streets, which has been going into different neighborhoods. And finally, we have the Neighborhood Improvement Grant. We get $20,000 allocated from City Council every year to help fund neighborhood-initiated and community beneficial grants. And we're actually currently scoring some grants right now. And a lot of those projects you've probably seen, it's a lot of the art murals on the traffic signal boxes or the quick builds, murals, there's park improvements. It's a really great way to affect change right there in your neighborhood. So really quick, but the neighborhood program is, I think, one of the best ways to connect. It's a really great way to meet different neighbors. It's a great way to hear what's going on in your neighborhood. And really be able to affect real and tangible change right there. And one thing during the pandemic, it was difficult to engage. And so this year we were able to really bring back many of the neighborhoods, but a lot of neighborhoods are still in need of different members. And so if you're interested, I know a lot of leadership team members have gone through this program as well. And leadership team members have gone on to be city council members. So it's just a really great way to be engaged. And so if you're interested, you can always reach out, maybe at the end of this, if you want to stick around. This is a good way to do it. And yeah, that's kind of the neighborhood side of things. But there are many, many, many other ways to engage with the city. And so I'm going to have actually first, does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
Will you send this slideshow to us?
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions about neighborhoods? All right.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for hanging in. I know we're getting close to time, so I'll try and be quick. I'm Ashley. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist for Community Planning, Development, and Innovation. It is the department that handles all of our housing programs, our permitting, our development, our unhoused programs, and then our Missoula project that Mike talked a little bit about and we'll touch on here in just a moment. I'm going to go to the next slide. So, sorry, back one. Not doing it. There we go. So my position was created almost a year ago. Next week is my year anniversary at the city in this position, which is very exciting. But I'm really responsible for helping our department in particular develop more inclusive and accessible community engagement practices, helping break down barriers to participation for folks that may not typically engage with the city, and then also just make it easier on everybody, hopefully. And so we're really trying to supplement some of the established ways that, through neighborhoods or the boards and commissions or through city council, some of those more established venues for engagement, trying to supplement those and bring maybe new folks in or make it easier, break down barriers for pretty much anybody to engage. The goal is really to make sure that you all, Missoula residents, are able to engage in projects and issues that matter to you, and that we hear from folks as much as we can on the projects and issues that matter to you. You can go to the next slide. So really it's about building relationships and hopefully trust within the community. That's a huge huge part of my position is really building relationships and talking to folks and kind of hearing about some of the things that y'all are interested in. Hopefully is an ongoing relationship, so not just when we have a project or not just when we want to hear from you, but that you see me at community events, that you know us from different things, that we show up in your neighborhoods and we can kind of be a conduit, a point of contact for you to reach out to on a regular basis. So it's not just a transactional type thing, it's actually a relationship. And that goes both ways. So bringing your ideas to the city and then also bringing city projects to you. So that could look like, where we hold meetings, if we have childcare available, what time the meetings are, if it's available online, if it's a welcoming space, things like that. So really developing strategies to meet you where you are, and then constantly evaluating who is engaged, who is missing, and how we can be better. So it's a really iterative process where we're constantly trying to get better and do better the next time. So you go to the next slide. So this is a little bit of the process that we're trying to start developing to go through when we host an event or when we have a forum or a community engagement opportunity. So what does this require? Who should be involved? How will we engage? How will we define and measure success? And how can we do better next time? Go to the next slide. Really, my position is, the foundation is really these community engagement principles. So being genuine, equitable, intentional, user-friendly, and then every time we do something, trying to get better and making it a little bit better, as we go. Next slide. So that can look like one-on-one meetings with residents, with you all. That can look like going and presenting to an organization or a nonprofit. That can look like me just attending community events and trying to hear what's going on and what people are concerned about. Mike talked about our Missoula project, which is our growth policy update and code reform project. So the growth policy is our vision for growth and how we want the community to grow. And then the development code is really how we carry out that vision. And so we're updating the growth policy and then updating the development code to match that vision, because right now it does not. You can go to the next slide. A really great example of what types of inclusive, accessible engagement we're trying to get into is the community kickoff for the Our Missoula project, which was held in December at the fairgrounds. We partnered with Common Good Missoula, who is a collective of 36, about 36, I would say, organizations, nonprofits, labor unions, churches, other community organizations, neighborhood council, or neighborhood organizations, to really educate and bring awareness about what this project will be about. We heard personal stories from residents about how this project might affect folks. We provided childcare, we provided snacks, and we tried to put it in a central location so that people could really attend. It was on a bus line. It was, trying to really think through some of these things that might prevent somebody from being able to attend. And then we also recorded it and broadcast it on MCAT. So it was broadcast that night, and then the recording is also available on our Engage Missoula site. So it's accessible to more people than who were just available on December 13th. So that kind of innovative community partnership is something we're trying to get better at and do as we go, So now that we've done that first event, looking back and saying, well, who wasn't there? Why weren't people able to attend? Was it because it was a cold December night? Was it because, what are some of the factors that might have prevented somebody from attending, and trying to mitigate some of those the best we can? We can't be everywhere at once, but we can do our best to be as accessible and inclusive as we possibly can be. And so one of the other ways, you can go to the next slide, that we really can do that and have started Engage Missoula, which is one of the websites that were brought up in the council presentation. Engage Missoula is where you can find city projects of any type from all departments. You can find developer-initiated projects. You can find stuff about Parks and Recreation. You can find stuff about the Bear Smart campaign that's happening right now. And the Our Missoula project is there as well. These are three of the top projects that are happening right now, and it's engagemissoula.com. Go to the next slide. So it's really just anything that you can think of that the city has going on, but also specifically how you can make your voice heard. So comments, surveys, questions, a really conversational way to sort of get your input and feedback. So it's not just information, it's really an engagement tool, and it makes it more accessible so that if we have a public event, we can then replicate it online and put some of that information, some of those videos, some of those surveys up, so that if you weren't able to attend the event, you're then able to engage and give your input even if you weren't able to go. And so, I'm gonna sort of really quickly, this is our regular website. So, engagement and communication are a little bit different. Our regular website is really where you can go to get information about any department. You can, report a pothole, you can ask about a permit, you can sign your kid up for swimming lessons, you can find out about the next Wednesdays with the mayor. It's a one-stop shop, but it's really our information hub. So I had some questions over here about some of the city council meetings and agendas and things like that. And so I'm just gonna click through really quick here and show you some of the communications tools. Our website is one of very, we have a lot of different ways of communicating with folks. So MCAT is a great example. You might see us on the side of a bus. You might hear us on City Talk Radio. We have the Wednesdays with the Mayor program. We do press releases. We have, PSAs. There's a lot of different ways that we communicate.
Social media.
Social media as well. This is not loading, and I don't really know why.
We have the Engage Missoula social media platform.
We don't have Engage Missoula. We do have a City of Missoula Facebook. We have a couple different Facebooks. So there's City of Missoula, which shares most whatever else happens. That's a really good centralized place to go. We have Missoula Redevelopment Agency has one. CPDI has a page. Neighborhoods has a page. And I'm sure there's a few others. And then there's a Missoula Redevelopment Agency Instagram. And I think that's the only Instagram one that we have.
Yeah. So this is our main site. We're going to be, or we already did hand out a resource guide that has all of a bunch of different really important phone numbers, or key phone numbers for the city, but also this website, ci.missoula.mt.us. That's our main website, and then also the Engage Missoula site. So up at the top here, there's government, which is where you can find all of the city council information. All of the departments, you can click through and see information about each department, from most of which you're going to be hearing from over the next 6 weeks. Community, that's where you can get your information about different Visit Missoula, different events that are happening, arts and culture, different recreation opportunities. If you'd like to join a border commission, and then if you click on e-notifications, that is where you can get, you can sign up for newsletters or updates from pretty much anything you can think of that the city has to offer. So my department, the Minor Police Department, CPDI, Community Planning Development and Innovation, has a newsletter that we put out every once in a while. The newsletters, or the neighborhoods, also have their own notify me list. So if you just want news about your specific neighborhood, you can go down to your neighborhood council and click the little email and sign up there. And then all the way down at the bottom of any page, if you click on Contact Us, you're going to be able to go through and sort of see a staff directory for each department, which is also really helpful. So if you don't know who to call at the city, you can go through this Contact Us page and hopefully find at least a main phone number, if not a very specific one for you as well. And then on the very front page of the website, I know I'm going a little fast, I apologize, we're a little over. We can email these links out too, is our link to Engage Missoula. So it's right here. It's also on your thing, your resource sheet, but it's engagemissoula.com. Developer initiated projects is what Mike was referring to earlier. Our Missoula is the project that I was talking about, and then when you scroll down, there's anything you can think of. So here is information about the federal building, for example. So you can find out more information about the city-county agreement to take over the federal building and move in there in a couple of years for some of our offices. So what's the information? Here's some key information, the life cycle of the project, and then you can also ask questions and things like that. So, any questions? I apologize if that was a little faster than I thought it was going to be. But I don't even think I stuttered, so that's pretty cool. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to write first a prayer for I will send out my presentation and Ashley's shortly to you all, so you can have those. But a lot of the links and a lot of the things we talked about is in that neighborhood resource resource page and the brochure as well.
So, and sorry for going long, it's my time management, but thank you, Ashley.
Absolutely, thank you all very much. And my cards are up here if you have any questions. You'll hear from our department tomorrow too, so a lot of what we talked about, those projects still cover as well.
So we see them next week.
I'm sorry, not tomorrow.
Next week at the Missoula Public Library, 4th floor. It's going to be the Community Planning, Development, and Innovation. If y'all can't make it, just let me know again. I am excited. I'm really excited about this whole cohort. Thank you all so much for applying, and thank you for participating.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.